Good morning, salute. Oh, good, fantastic, thank you. Could have been a difficult moment there if it was all quiet. Welcome. It's great to be here, to be delivering a taste of that. The Art of Being Brilliant, which is one of those titles where people first hear and then I see them sit back in their seats and fold their arms as if to say, oh, go on then. So I'm feeling the pressure. I'm going to do my best. But it's one of those titles that's a little bit provocative. And I'm hoping this morning, I'm hoping for this session, I'm going to provoke a range of different responses. Now, some of you might be a bit like this little lad at the end already. You've heard the art of being brilliant, and you don't want to hear anymore. You're like, I've heard enough. Or maybe you're a little bit like the lad who's right at the back, and you've had too much coffee this morning already. Maybe that's you. Or perhaps you're like this young lady at the front, and you're new to teaching, okay? Is there anyone here who's in their first year of teaching? Can you put your hand up? One there. Anybody else? 1, 2, 3. Can we have a round of applause for these people who've just come in? Fantastic, that's what I like to hear. Actually, I'm trying to get a flavour of the audience. So we've just seen some people who are new to the profession. Let's go to the other extreme now. Can you put your hand up if you've been teaching for 10 years or longer? Okay, that's quite a few. Okay, let's raise it. 15 years or longer. 20 years or longer. Whoa! 25 years or longer. Whoa! 30. Higher than 30. 35 years or longer. 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43. Oh, 42. 42 years. Can you put your hand up, those ladies who've been teaching 42 years? Really good. That's quite special. And actually, there is 42 years. 42. I think you deserve a little present, a little t-shirt, a little round of applause. That's good. That is impressive. Okay, so now I'm getting an idea of who we've got in the room. That's good. That's quite a range, isn't it? 42 years. Okay, now that leaves quite a few people in the middle. We've seen the new people to the profession, we've seen people that have been here a long time. That leaves a lot of you in the middle, but you're by no means average. Okay? And that is kind of what today is about. Because if you can cultivate the best, most brilliant version of you, then quite simply, everybody benefits. The children benefit, your staff, the other teachers, your colleagues benefit, but not only that, your friends benefit, your family benefits, but actually, and most importantly, you benefit too. And I strongly believe it takes the best of you to get the best out of other people. So I should introduce myself a little bit. So I started life as a teacher, and I qualified in something called physical and adventure education. And that's pretty much how I think all education should be. Okay? I think sedentary, unadventurous education is not much fun for anybody. And my area of specialism is something called growth mindsets, how our mindset informs and influences our learning both inside the classroom and outside of the classroom. And the book on the left, that was something called the ERA Education Book of the Year last year in England. And I soon worked out, after a little while actually, that the same skills and qualities that help children to flourish and help children to learn inside the classroom are key to them flourishing in life outside of the classroom. And do you know what? I've actually realised that us, as adults, many of us are trying to rediscover just some of those qualities we had as children, which is where the book on the end comes in. And it was when I was first at college, I realised that actually the way we think and our relationship with negativity doesn't always get the best out of us and the best out of other people. And one of the reasons for that is human beings work by a principle called stimulus response. We don't deal well with the negative. Let me give you an example. Under no circumstances right now do I want you to think about a pink elephant. Don't think about a pink elephant. You can't help but do it. Or to give you another example, you've all been out in a restaurant or a bar or a coffee shop, and you've been there, you've been talking to a friend, then at the back of the room, somebody walks in that you've not seen for a long time, you lean over to your friend, and you say, "Don't look now, but you'll never guess who's just walked in." And of course, that's exactly what it is. Okay? We can't help it. That's just how we are. Okay? And that relationship maybe doesn't get the best out of us or the people around us. But maybe there's something we can do about it. And actually, the art of brilliance is also known as the science of flourishing. How to get the best out of ourselves, the best out of other people. And we, as teachers, as educators, are the most important and valuable resource in the classroom. But I get it. Life is busy. It's full on. It's 7 days a week, 8 days a week. If you're in education, it can feel like it's 9 days a week. I get it. So I'm not here preaching to you. And there was a report from a supermarket that came out a few years ago. And it was complaining and moaning about the drop in sales of oranges. Okay? Sales of oranges had fallen through the floor. And they put this down to the fact that people just don't have the time to peel them anymore. It's quite shocking, isn't it? Quite shocking. Now, a few of you are raising your eyes a little bit, okay, and thinking, really? But actually, in England, we have small clementine oranges. They are called easy peelers. And the reason why, put your hand up if you like clementines. Okay, yes, and the reason we like them is they're not just easy to peel, they are, yes, thank you, they are quick and easy to peel. That's the reason why we like them. That's how it works. So yes, life is full on and it's busy. And when you're teaching, it can feel a bit precarious, like you're walking a fine line, or even cycling a fine line. You've got all sorts of different people to please. So teaching is not easy. So I'm not here telling you to do better, but I appreciate life can be a little bit stressful. Okay? It's a Japanese stress test. Put your hand up if you can see the petals moving. Okay, well, the petals aren't moving. Okay, it is completely still. It's supposed to appear like it's moving, okay? But the idea is the faster the petals are moving, then the more stressed you are. So if you're holding onto your seat, maybe you need to have a rest. Okay? But it should be moving. A little bit of stress is good for us. It helps us to get things done. It helps us to meet deadlines. And today I'm not going to say that actually this is about ignoring the negative, about ignoring the stressful things, but it's about acknowledging them and embracing them and dealing with them positively and overcoming them. But we're not going to talk about all those things we've got to do, because we're really, really busy people. We are, however, going to consider how to be, and the difference that that small semantic side shift can have. Because if you can cultivate and develop the best version of you and how to be, then everything else follows. But I'm going to just show you how we think. And I'm going to try and get an idea and a flavour for the sorts of people we've got in the room here. Can you put your hand up if you're the sort of person who writes lists? If you're a list writer. Okay, whoa. Lots of you. Okay. So I'm not surprised, because in education, in teaching, you are very, very busy. And you have to use strategies to organise your time, okay? To use it efficiently, to make sure you get done what you need to get done. You're what we call logical left brain thinkers, okay? So I've got a second question for you. Put your hand up if you write a shopping list in the order of the aisles that you go down or the shops that you visit. Okay, right. So that means you're even more developed logical left brain thinkers. Got even less time. Trying to use your time wisely, get yourself really, really organised. Okay, I'm going to ask you a third question, and there might be nobody. Some people are still looking now at the items down there. There might be nobody that answers yes to this, but I'm going to ask it anyway, okay? I want you to think about a to-do list. You know when you have a list of jobs to do, okay? Is there anybody here, and be honest, that will go and complete a job that isn't on your to-do list, only to go straight back to the list and write it on just so you can cross it off again? How many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Whoa. So that's can't help yourself. That's extreme logical left brain thinking.
That increased my self-esteem, and I can manage the others.
Yes. So I'm going to agree with you, but here's my point. We don't have much time. We're very, very busy people. Yet arguably, in all practical terms, you go and do something that's a complete waste of time. Okay? Your brain does release a shot of a chemical called dopamine, which makes you feel good, so it serves a purpose. But this is my point. That many of the things that we do on a daily basis, I call the field of long grass principle. Okay? So I want you to imagine one day you come up against a field of long grass. Okay? You've got to get to the other side. So you plunge in, and you get to the other side. The next day, you come to the very same field of long grass, and you've got to get to the other side. Which pathway do you take? The very same pathway, because it's a little bit flattened down. It's a bit easier. And do you know what? We do the same the day after, and the day after, and the week after, and the month after, and the year after, in many, many different respects. We do it just because that's what we've always done. We get used to it. And that's okay. That's okay. You know? If you think about your normal day when you go to work, your alarm probably goes off at the same time. You probably have exactly the same breakfast that you always have, sat in exactly the same seat. Okay? Maybe, maybe not. You probably take exactly the same route to work as you always do. Okay? And when you get to work, if you arrive in a car, most of us will try and park in exactly the same parking space. Unless someone's got there before us, and that could really scuppers our day, really spoils it. But we do. But my point is, all of us get into these habits, okay? But we can get stuck into those habits. And doing the same things you've always done will get you the same things you've always done. So maybe if you want to get to a different destination at the end of the field, sometimes we have to consciously intervene to try to get to a different place, or maybe a better place. Why? Why do we need to bother with that? I heard Pamela talking earlier, and I think she alluded to the fact that actually many of the jobs that children who are 7 years old, 8 years old are going to go on to do, they don't even exist yet, which is mind-blowing. Really, really mind-blowing. It's also a little bit of a contentious statistic, because people say, well, actually, what constitutes a completely different job? Because if you look at how teaching and all sorts of different jobs have evolved over the previous 5-10 years, they're getting quite different. So it's fair to say that 100% of jobs that children are going to go on to do in years to come are going to be very, very different. But I'm also going to share with you the number 17. Okay? Because children who are 7, 8 years old, it's estimated that they will go on to do 17 different jobs throughout their adult lifetime. Now, 17 might not sound particularly significant to you, but if you compare that with my father, my dad's generation, he went to school, he went to college, and he got a job for life. One job. And he was very happy too. But it makes me think education has changed, which means our role as educators has changed too. Okay? No longer is it about training children, teaching children, educating children just to get a job, but it's got to be about so much more. It's got to be about helping them to discover and encourage and develop their own unique interests, strengths, passions, dreams, and to follow them. And in order to do that, they've got to be the best versions of themselves. If you speak to futurologists, what they say is there's 2 key skills that children are going to need. 2 key skills. One is the capacity to develop and hold and maintain complex social interactions, to really get on with people and really bring the best out of not just themselves and other people. And also, in addition, the ability to think creatively, okay? To come up with not just solving problems, but actually considering and thinking about what potential problems might be in the future and coming up with their own solutions and innovative ideas. Okay? And actually, I reckon if we're developing our creativity, there's different types of creativity that we need to develop. Okay? And I'm going to give you 5 different types quickly whilst I'm here. The first type of creative thinking I'm going to call brain game thinking. Okay? I want you to imagine if you've got a sum to solve. Okay? For instance, 135 multiplied by 27.3. In order to solve that, you've got to think quite deeply, haven't you? You may know how to do it, but actually to do the sum, you really have to think carefully about it. And you need to have some quite developed stamina to sustain your thinking. So that's the first attribute that I think children need to develop in terms of creative thinking. Secondly, and all these activities are available to you, I'll just quickly mention, chicken and egg activities are there to design and promote what I call abstract thinking. Okay? If you're writing a poem or a story, you need to kind of conjure up and generate ideas from nowhere. Okay? And chicken and the egg activities help you to kind of generate those ideas and make connections. Quick draw activities develop your capacity to visualise. Okay? What I'd like you to do for me, can you have a go, can you just think about it? Think about how to spell the word beautiful. Okay? I want you to do it now. Think about how to spell the word beautiful. And some of you are writing it down. Okay? Because one of the main tools that we use for learning is visualisation, and we see it in our mind. And there's actually lots of children out there who think they're not very good at learning because they can't write it down or they can't speak it and articulate it clearly. However, they are creative thinkers. Okay? If they can draw it, that's a real ideal tool. Movers and shakers is really important. We talked about the importance of developing complex social interactions. My experience of working with children when they work in a group, if I'm honest, is that children don't work in a group. Okay? You might have 4 or 5 of them together, one person shouts the loudest, has an argument with the others, and actually if they did work in a group, then you would get something at the end of it which is 4 or 5 times better than one person's result. But they just argue. And actually a key skill is to develop something called interdependence. Okay? Yes, to be independent, but also to work together to develop something that's better than the sum of the accumulative parts, the constituent parts. And finally, people who are successful in life, okay, have the ability to iterate, okay, which means good things don't just happen from a design that you do, from a blueprint. Okay? Good things happen through your design being improved and tweaked time and time and time again. There's a gentleman called James Dyson. You know Dyson, the vacuum cleaners? Do you know those? Okay. It took him 5,127 goes before that vacuum cleaner hit the shops. Okay, and that's because to get something perfect, the best it can be, you have to have the capacity to keep tweaking and improving and developing. So it's important. It's important, actually, that you know why you're doing these things. Because actually, if you don't know why you're teaching these activities to children, then what you do can't match your why. And actually your why and your what have to match. Because only then do you develop something called authenticity. Authenticity with the children, authenticity with your fellow teachers, and authenticity, well, with parents. And from authenticity, you develop trust. And trust is the key component to forming positive relationships with the children. That's what makes progress. The thing is, if times are changing, we don't always deal well with change. Okay? We like to think we do, but we like to think it's smooth and it's seamless. But any time children are asked to learn, you're asking them to change their view of the world. Whenever we have to progress and teach something different and adapt, we have to change our own view of the world. And we don't like it because it feels a little bit uncomfortable. It makes our brain ache a little bit. Okay? And there's a feeling for that brain ache, and it's called cognitive dissonance. Okay? And it's what we try and get rid of because it's not a nice feeling, particularly if we're not used to it. Okay? And I'm going to try and show you a little bit about how that cognitive dissonance works and how it feels. So you may have seen these before, okay? This might be a disaster, this might not work at all. So the challenge is that you say the colours, not the words. So for this you would say red, blue, green, yellow, orange and pink. Okay? So we're going to have a go at this, but we're going to do it in 2 halves. Okay? We're going to do ladies first, and then gentlemen. Gentlemen, I'm really sorry to put you on the spot here, but you're going to help me out. I'm really sorry. I apologise in advance. We'll see how this goes. okay? So you're going to say the colour, not the word. So, ladies first. Are you ready, ladies? Are you sure? Okay, here we go. Say the colour, not the word. Hard, isn't it? It's hard. Yeah. Next one. Gentlemen. This is for us, gentlemen, okay? I'm sorry to put you on the spot here, okay? Bit of quiet for the gentlemen. Here we go. Gentlemen, say the colour, not the word. I find this really hard. Thank you, Africa. Ladies! Could have been better. Gentlemen! You're better than me. Ladies? Last one for the boys. And this last one, this is for everybody. Okay, you ready for this one? Which was the easiest? Why was that the easiest?
We focus on the color.
You're right. That's the easiest because the words are upside down. Your brain is paying less attention to the words, so there's less conflict in meaning. There's less cognitive dissonance. But that feeling comes up every time you have to adapt and you try and learn something new, whether it's adapting to change or whatever it might be. If you really want to know what cognitive dissonance feels like, are you ready for this? If you really want to know, turn your phones on now. Don't worry, you don't have to. Did you feel the daggers coming towards me when I said that? And that's because we don't like that feeling, and you're busy saying, do you know what, why do I have to take my phone off? I'm an adult, who are you telling me to do this in your pink shirt? Okay? And we do three things. We try to generalise, delete and distort. But my point is, actually change and learning is not a smooth straight line. It's difficult. It's got lumps and bumps and ups and downs and twists and turns. And we get used to just trying to get rid of that feeling. Learning is dealing positively with that feeling of cognitive dissonance. But our brain gets rid of the information. We do three things. We generalise, we delete and distort. Okay? We have messages that we try and smooth over, make a little bit easier. Put your hand up when you can find the mistake. Put your hand up when you can find the mistake. I'll give you a clue.
Yeah.
I'll give you another clue. If you still can't find the mistake, I'm not sure if you're in the right job. If you still can't find the mistake. So our brains resist doing things differently. It resists trying to change. And actually, what our brains want us to do is just keep doing the same old thing day after day. But even if that isn't getting the best out of us, that's how we used to. That's what we did. Which brings me to Mary. Okay. This is Mary. We called her Mares for short. I went to school with Mary, and there's no sad ending to this story. Mary's still around. But I went through primary school and secondary school with Mary, all the way to the age of 18. And Mary's developed a nickname. Okay? We called her Nightmares. We called her Nightmares because every day, whatever lesson we had, morning Mary, what have we got today? Maths. Nightmare. What have we got today? Double PE? Nightmare. What have we got today? Geography. Nightmare. Everything was a nightmare. She was one of these people, her glass was kind of not just half empty, it was 3/4 empty. Okay, life was a bit of a nightmare. She was a really nice friend, she was a good person, but life for Mary was a little bit of a nightmare. I went off to university, Mary went off to do her thing. And then about 5 or 6 years later, when I was back home, I was in a local supermarket. And I was stood there, and I spied Mary at the other end of the aisle. And I thought, do I say hello? Thought for a minute. Thought, go on, you're an adult, you're mature, say hello. So I did a couple of passes with a supermarket trolley just to make sure it was there. And it was. And I stopped. And I had a chat with her. And it was good to speak to her. Really, really good. But you know what's coming. Okay? I was left with the distinct impression that life for Mary's was still a bit of a nightmare. Okay? And I smiled. I smiled as I went to the car. I was just about to put my key in the car door, because that's the time, those were the times when you actually had to put a key in the car door to unlock it. And then I stopped smiling. And I stopped smiling, and I actually felt quite sad, because Mary had a mini Mary with her, a 2-year-old. And I couldn't help but feel sad, because I thought, what sort of filter, what sort of view of the world was mini Mary going to inherit for the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years? And actually it takes the best of us to get the best out of others. So I think what this session is about is actually, if you don't want to consider being the best version of you for you, then maybe we need to consider doing it for those people who are our nearest and dearest, and those people who are close to us and who matter, that are around us. Love that photograph. Love it. The girl on the right is enjoying herself, but the girl on the left, she's nailing it. She's excited. She's in the moment. And it's there to remind me of a true story. My son Henry, when he was 4, he was about to start nursery school. He was due to start on Friday, and it was Monday. Okay? And I'm lying in bed. And I'm kind of asleep. It's about 4 o'clock in the morning. And all of a sudden, I became aware of a presence in the room. I opened my eyes, and there was a figure stood at the end of my bed. And as my eyes became adjusted to the light, I could see it was my son Henry. And he was stood there. I said, Henry, you okay? He said, yes, Dad. And I looked a bit more closely, and he was dressed from head to toe in his school uniform. So I thought for a moment, and I said, Henry, it's not school today, school's on Friday. Do you know what he said? He said, yes, Dad, I know, I'm practicing. So I thought for a moment, and I said to him, you're excited about starting school, aren't you? How excited are you about starting school? Do you know what he did? He went, that much. Let me tell you, when you're 4, that much excited is a lot. Is he still that excited about going to school? Are you that excited about going to school? Yes? No? So? Because if you aren't, what I'm saying to you, even though it's not easy, is you should be. Okay? Because I've come to the conclusion, the quite scary conclusion, that you are the decisive element in the classroom that makes the difference. But I did say being the best version of you is not easy, because we get bombarded with all sorts of images about how we should look and feel and be. This is what someone who's successful should look like. Okay? That's what we call the perception. Okay? That's how you should be. That's the perception. That's the reality. We know it. Perception, that's the reality. The reality is a soggy, saggy nappy and a foot in the face at 3 o'clock in the morning. We know. We know. But actually, we pretend that's how it is. But actually, that being the reality, because that's us, that can sometimes make us feel a little bit flat and a little bit less than our best. And I get it, because it creeps up on us. And there's a word for it. It's called habituation, which means the gradual erosion of passion. And it happens to us all, and it can creep up on us all without us actually noticing it. So I've got a big question that I want you to consider. You ready for this? Could you be happier even if nothing in the world around you changed?
Yes.
It might not surprise you to hear that actually for many of us, at least some of the time, the answer to that question, I think, is yes. Okay? But it's not easy. It's easier to stay a little bit mediocre, okay? A little bit less than your best, a little bit same old, taking the same path that you always get that doesn't get the best out of you. But there's something I want you to understand here, okay? Bear with me now, because this is a little bit of a big thought. Your happiness isn't real. Now, what I mean by that is you can't go into the local supermarket and buy a box of happiness from the top shelf. Okay? Your happiness is an emotion. It's a construct. It's a feeling that arises as a product of your thinking. Okay? It comes from inside out. The way you think about things, the way you think about the world, creates how you feel about it. Okay? Let me give you an example about this. Put your hand up if when you were younger you had a favourite cuddly toy or teddy bear that you would kind of take to bed. Put your hand up, okay? Put your hand up if you've still got that favourite cuddly toy. Okay? After 3, I want you to say the name of that cuddly toy out loud. 1, 2, 3. Now the fact that you can still remember your cuddly toy shows you how special, how important that cuddly toy is. Okay? And actually you probably wouldn't go to sleep, you wouldn't go to bed without your cuddly toy. It was that important. It gave you feelings, it consoled you. It made you feel good, it made you feel warm. Okay? Brace yourself for this. Brace yourself for this, but I've got news for you. Your cuddly toy, your teddy bear, wasn't real. It was just a stuffed toy. Which begs the question, where did those feelings come from? Well, I'll tell you where those feelings came from. They came from you. You created and you generated those feelings. They come from the inside out. In truth, you are feeling, you're thinking. But many of us behave in such a way that it's the other way round. That we feel first and then think about it afterwards. I'll give you an example. Oh, I'm feeling a bit dumpy and a bit drab and a bit grey. I think I better go and buy a whole new outfit. Or I feel like there's nothing good on television. I think I better get Netflix. Or I feel like my job isn't going anywhere. I don't think I'm going to try anymore. Or maybe I'm going to get a different job. Or I feel like the spark has gone out of my relationship. Not sure what I think about that. But actually behaving like that, you're always a victim of circumstances and what's around you. Okay? If you can appreciate that your thoughts control your feelings, then you can train the way you think to bring out the very best in you. And some of you are looking at me like, really? But I'm going to show you. And I'm going to try and show that actually, if you change the way you look at things through time, the things you look at change. Okay? If you can train yourself to look at things in a different way, the things will change. So I'm going to show you a short clip of a subway. Okay? You can see the train. Okay, the train is going to move. But I want you to concentrate on it. Okay? And actually, you can change the direction that the train is going in by how you think. You can think it to move one way, you can think it to move the other way. Okay, you ready for this? Here we go. It's strange. The direction the train was moving was up to you. If you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And with practice, I think we can all be happier, but it takes practice. And it's not easy. It's easy to stay the same. And it's difficult because some of the ways we feel, I call them sticky feelings. We may have felt like that for a long, long time, which then turns into a belief, and we believe we're just a certain sort of person. And then we behave in the same sort of way, so we always get the same sort of results. To give you an example, my brother's called Tom. When he was 7 years old, the school we went to, when you were 7 years old, you were allowed to write in a pen. Okay, not a pencil, but a pen. You would bring in your special pen. It was a big deal. It was a big moment. Okay? And I want you to imagine the whole class sitting there in silence with their brand new pens, trying to write. And the teacher was walking around the classroom, just looking. She walked behind my brother Tom. She looked at his writing. She didn't say anything, but she just took the pen out of his hand and replaced it with a pencil. And from that moment on, my brother Tom just thought he was rubbish at writing. And he spent the past 43 years thinking, I'm not very good at writing, just because of that moment. We sometimes learn to think in these ways. I spoke to a lady last week that said when she was younger, she was using a screwdriver. You know a screwdriver? Fixing things. And she's left-handed. She was using a screwdriver. and her dad came along and he took the screwdriver from her because he said it looked awkward. It looked awkward. Since then, she's never done any fixing or never tried to do anything around the house at all. And that is a little bit how it works. Sometimes we inherit these feelings about how we are, and it stops us from doing things. Okay? It stops us from being the best version of us. So I want you to just take a minute, and I want you to have a chat with the person next to you. Do you think that maybe you've fallen into the trap of actually feeling like you're a certain sort of person, that you've inherited some sort of beliefs or barriers that maybe limit you? Or maybe sometimes you see other people's barriers, you see actions of the way of thinking that maybe doesn't get the best out of them. Have a couple of minutes to discuss that question, please. So we've talked about the importance of training our brains to think differently. We've talked about maybe we could actually be feeling a little bit happier and a little bit more positive on a daily basis, and how that actually might help get the best out of not just ourselves, but people around us. But I did say it's not easy, so we need to work out perhaps how we can do this. Tell me what you can see. Put your hand up if you saw first, and be honest, opportunities nowhere. Who saw opportunities nowhere first? First. Who saw opportunities now here? A few of you. Who saw something about snow? There's always one. There's always one. But what interests me about that is they're two very different messages. Opportunity is nowhere, and opportunity is now here. They're very, very different. However, the message just pops into your head. There's nothing you can do about it. It goes into your head. It's a certain filter way of seeing the world. I think I like that photo. Is Isn't it just a little bit scary though at the same time? Just a little bit scary. But it's there to remind me, when I was that age, 12 months, I can't remember who it was that helped inform my view of the world and the way I think about things. Which begs the question, who was it that helped me form my views and opinions of the world when I was that age? Who was it? Okay. Mum, dad, parents? Yeah? So my next question, so who was it that informed my mum and dad's views of the world when they were that age? Yeah. And my point is, you can follow this pattern back hundreds, thousands of years, all the way back to a time when we were probably huddled around a fire in a cave trying to keep warm. And back then, in order to stay alive, it paid to adopt a slightly negative view of the world. You would think, actually, do you know what? I'm not going to put my hand in that cave just in case there's a snake in there and I get bitten. Because the result of that, the result of getting bitten would be terrible. That would be the end of you. So we've evolved with slightly a negative, cautious view of the world. Do you know what? I better not do that. We've also evolved to be what we call social animals. Because surviving, getting on was so much better in numbers. If there was a group of you, hunting, building shelters was so much easier with a group of you. So we've evolved to kind of have a little bit of a negative attitude and actually to do the same as other people. And 98% of us kind of stay in our comfort zones. We kind of play it safe and just get by and kind of just do what everybody else does just because that's what we're used to doing. And actually, I'm not sure whether just getting by and just surviving actually brings the best out of us. And actually, I think our comfort zones actually feel a little bit uncomfortable after a while. And maybe even give us bed sores. But we don't like thinking about what lies outside the comfort zone. Because there's some big questions. Because if there's an alternative, if you could be doing or should be doing something different, something better, we don't like to think about it. Because we don't deal well with negative thoughts. Whoops. And that's how our brain works. Our brain doesn't like negative thoughts. And there's some research called the Lasada line that says actually we give more weight to negative feelings than positive feelings. Okay? Which means if someone gives you a compliment and you say, oh, nice pair of shoes, nice dress, kind of we quite like it, but we soon forget about it. If someone says to you, oh, I don't like your shoes, ooh, that hurts. That hurts. Do you have parents' evenings here where parents come along and talk about their children? Do you have parents' evenings? If you see 30 different sets of parents and 29 of the sets of parents will say good things, but there's one set of parents that normally keep you lying awake at night worried because they've said something a little bit negative. Okay? It's the negative things hurt more. And we need to retrain our brains because it's not always been like that. There was a time when you were like that, when you were positive, when you were your best selves, you had curly hair and chubby knees. Okay. Love that photograph. And the things I'm talking about, this is not so much personal development, but actually personal remembering. Okay? We need to try and intervene in our thinking and get a little bit more of that back. Because normally, when we go across that field of long grass, this is how we think. There is a trigger, something that causes us to think and feel a certain way, which affects our behaviour and results in an outcome. So I'll give you an example. Last Christmas, I'd been Christmas shopping. I'd left it too late even to do internet shopping. I actually had to go to the shops to buy something. Okay? Coming out, big traffic jam. You know all about traffic in the rooms, okay? And I let someone come out into the traffic in front of me, okay? And he didn't acknowledge or say thank you. He didn't say thank you. Feeling rage, okay? Road rage, okay? Behaviour followed him home. Outcome could have been very messy if I wasn't such a coward. And my point is, quite often we do things that don't bring out the best of us, but we can intervene in our thinking. And we can learn from a certain set of people who are very good at intervening in their thinking to think more positively. So here we've got 15 years of research on one slide, so I'm going to try my best not to mess it up. Okay? So here we go. I want you to imagine what we call a positivity scale, which goes from 0 to 10. Okay? And down there, at 0, at 1, 2, 3, that's you when you're feeling a bit grumpy, a bit miserable, a bit down in the dumps. Okay? I'm not talking about people who are suffering from anxiety and depression and mental illness. That's a different scale. But I'm talking about you on a normal day when you're not feeling your best. What we're really interested in is these people. We call them 2%ers. Okay, there's not many of them around, but these are people who are the same as you and I, yet they function at the 8, 8.5, 9, 9.5, 10 out of 10, most positive, best, most brilliant versions of themselves more often and more consistently than the rest of them. We're trying to learn what lessons we can from these people. Where I come from, there's a place called Derby, and 17,500 people on this positivity scale were asked to judge, to rate their happiness from 0 to 10. And the average figure for 17,500 people was 3 out of 10. Which seems a bit of a waste. Now actually, the national average in the UK is a little bit higher, but actually this isn't about being average, this is about being brilliant. What you need to know about your happiness is it works by something called elasticity. So your happiness goes up or down depending on if you've had a good day or not. Okay? If you have a good day, your happiness goes up. If you have a bad day, your happiness goes down. But unless it's been an extremely good day or an extremely bad day, you soon go back to your normal default setting of happiness. 2%ers. These are the positive people that you have in your schools that kind of just have a glow around them. They have a smile. They give off an energy that makes kind of not just people they come in contact with feel good. They just seem to be more energized, more lively than the rest of them. If you know one of these people, you're lucky. If you are one of these people, thank you. Now, unfortunately, there's many more of these people, mood hoovers, than there are 2%ers. Okay? People who are constantly at 0s, 1s, 2s, 3s. They're not bad people, okay? But they're a little bit, they suck the life out of the room when they come in. They're the sort of people, you walk in one day, you say, "Morning, lovely weather, isn't it?" And they'll say, "Yeah, but have you seen the weather forecast?" They bring the mood right down. They're a little bit like the Dementors from Harry Potter, if you've seen Harry Potter. Suck the life out of the room. And some people say to me, actually they know mood hoovers. You might be sat next to a mood hoover. Okay? You will probably know at least one mood hoover. Some people tell me, actually, do you know what, Will? I'm married to a mood hoover. And if you don't think mood hoovers exist, then it's probably you. But 2%ers, they exhibit different behaviours to the rest of us. Okay? They step outside of their comfort zone. They get excited. They don't mind change. And they do things to bring the best out of them, despite the fact that it might feel a little bit uncomfortable. So what I've tried to do is learn some of the secrets from these 2%ers. And why? Well, there's actual, real, tangible benefits to you being the best version of you more often. Research shows that the best version of you are 3 times more creative. You come up with better ideas if you are in a positive, good frame of mind. 3 times more. You get more done, which figures. If you're kind of like, bring it on, you get more done. If you come into work thinking, here we go again, you're not going to get much done. You're also 40% more likely to receive a promotion. Okay? Because people appreciate the energy that you're giving off, okay? And it's recognised. You will also feel more energised if you're positive than if you don't. Which is interesting, isn't it? So you will actually feel fitter if you're positive than if you're not. And actually, it helps you to engage in the environment. Okay? You're up to 10 times more engaged because you're interested, you're excited, you're inquisitive about life, and you're paying more attention to the people around you. And you know what? They reckon 2%ers are 39% more likely to live to an age of 94. So being positive is key to leading not just a long life, but a happy, long life too. And this is one of the key, talking about 2%ers, this is one of the key things, and this doesn't sound much, but believe me, this is a big deal. 2%ers choose to see the positive in a situation. Now, you can't choose to be happy, because happy is an emotion. It's something that you feel. But you can choose to see things positively, which makes you more receptive to feeling happy. You can train your brain to notice the good things that are going on, which makes you more receptive. Okay? And there's part of your brain called the reticular activating system. It acts like a bouncer to your brain. It decides what information is let in and what information isn't let in. And actually, because of the way we've evolved, our reticular activating systems are used to maybe letting in too much of the negative information. Okay? It helps, because without them, you'd be walking along the road and you see something with 4 wheels and a double-decker, and you think, okay, that's a bus. And then another 10 metres along the road, you'd have to look at it and you'd see 4 wheels and a double-decker, and you'd have to stop and think, oh, that's a bus. Your reticular activating system kind of just says, you don't need to pay attention to that, you know it's a bus already. Okay? But actually, you can retrain your brain to notice more positive things. Now, the person that tried to explain this to me said you need to try and keep a positivity journal, where you write down just 3 good things that have happened to you at the end of each day. Okay? By the end of 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you will start noticing more positive things, and you won't actually have to write them down anymore. Still didn't quite get it. I still didn't understand it until this. You know, on your phone, sometimes you have a video that pops up. This is what you were doing this time last year. You have a reminder that pops up. Okay? And on my daughter's phone, my daughter's called Martha, this video popped up. This is my son Henry. He no longer is 4, as you can tell. He looks a bit older. And this is the reminder that popped up on my daughter's phone. The only thing you need to know about this is Henry is not ill, okay? He's not ill. So watch. will tell him you've got a round of applause and he will be very happy about that. So I should explain. Someone at school had told Henry to design and devise your own signature dance moves. What you have to imagine is that you're drawing your name with your bottom. You're laughing now, but you'll be trying it later. To design your signature dance move, you've got to draw your name with your bottom. That's what he's doing. There we go. And actually, I'd forgotten all about this. It was one of those moments that you completely forget about. And it popped up on my daughter's phone, and my daughter's laughing away, you could hear her. And then I looked at it, and it made me smile, because Henry doesn't look like that anymore. He looks a bit older and a bit taller, and I thought, doesn't time fly? Then I looked at it again and thought, what's he doing with his big coat on and a pair of shorts at the same time? What's that all about? And it made me smile. And then I got it. I got the idea of keeping a positivity diary. Because do you know what? I shouldn't be waiting for my iPhone to be reminding me of the good things that are going on in my life. I should be thinking about them, and I should be reminding myself. By doing that and focusing on the good things more often, we feel better. If you want to take anything from today, I promise you it works. If you can, for 2-3 weeks, write down 3 good things that happen to you each and every day, you will see more and more good things, I promise you, and you won't need to write them down at the end of 2 or 3 weeks. And actually, that's completely opposite to that. Okay? Thank goodness it's Friday. There's a restaurant chain, okay, named after it. Somewhere along the line, we have learned, actually, that Fridays are great and Mondays are rubbish. And it's called destination addiction. We've learned to put off our happiness to other times and other places. There's Monday today, so I'm going to be miserable. Get to Friday, it'll be okay. We've learned to do that. I had to stop myself. My daughter was doing her exams, and I had to stop myself from saying, do you know what? Work hard this year and pass your exams, and then you'll be happy. Because do you know what? She's doing her next exams now. And then if she works hard and passes those exams, then she'll go to university. And I know so many people who keep doing that. I'll be happy when I've got a new car. I'll be happy when I've got a new job. I'll be happy when I've got a bigger house. I'll be happy when I retire. And they go on and on like that. I'm not saying you shouldn't work hard, but actually being happy and working hard are not mutually exclusive. You can have both. And if you're in a positive frame of mind, if you're the best version of you, you don't just work harder, you work smarter, and you're likely to be more successful. And here's the thing. I know people who are happy that have a big house and nice cars, but I know people who aren't. And actually just imagine what you can achieve and the children in your classes could achieve if you are the best versions of you and everyone was firing on all cylinders. What amazing things that could be achieved. True story, my wife is called Helen. Last year, she went to what we call a charity shop, like a second-hand shop. Do you have them here? Yes. She likes looking for bargains. Okay. And one day, she came back from the charity shop with a 24-piece dinner service. Plates, saucers, dishes, absolutely beautiful. Silver-edged, perfect condition. She didn't look very happy though. So the second question I asked her was, what's wrong? What was the first question? How much? Not very much. Okay, not very much. And she said, well, I brought these from the charity shop, from the second-hand shop. And I said, well, they're lovely. They're in beautiful condition. They look so nice. Why aren't you happy? And she said, well, the lady in the shop that served me, she knew where they'd come from. Okay? She was friends with an older lady who'd sadly passed away and died quite recently. And her son, because he didn't have enough room, had taken some of the belongings to the charity shop. Now that wasn't the saddest thing. The saddest thing was that these 24-piece dinner service, these set of plates and dishes, were perfect. And they'd spend the best part of 50 years behind the glass doors of a display cabinet, saved for a special occasion. And judging by the condition of those plates, those special occasions didn't come along very often. And I think that's a great metaphor, because how many of those things do we want to do? How many of our aspirations and our dreams, the things that we're interested in doing, do we leave behind glass cabinet display doors, thinking we might get round to them later? And I guess what I'm trying to say is we've got to do those things now, because there is no time like the present. Saddest part of this story is Helen said to the lady in the shop, I don't see many of these. I don't see many dinner services. And the woman in the shop, do you know what she said? Yes, we do get quite a few of them, but people don't like to buy second hand. So what we have to do is take them out to the back of the shop and smash them up and throw them away. Don't let those dreams and those things you want to do become a £10 charity shop epitaph. So I want you to take a moment to think about 4 questions. Number 1, what does the 2% version of you look, sound and feel like? Bearing in mind everybody is different. What breathes life into your school, into your nursery? What makes it feel good? Number 3, what are the benefits of being a 2%er, being you when you're kind of 9 or 10 out of 10? And number 4, what is it that's stopping you being a happier, more positive, flourishing version of you? Please just take a couple of minutes to consider those questions. Okay, I'm going to stop there before anybody else escapes. So I know you've not had much time to think about those questions. What I'm really interested in, question number 4. Because 2%ers have worked it out. 2%ers choose to see the positive. What is stopping you from being the best version of you? What's stopping you? Absolutely. 2%ers. Do you know I designed these stickers for 4-year-olds, but they go down quite well. With 4-year-old big and little. Please sport your 2%er sticker with pride. Thank you. 2%ers have figured out that actually it comes down to you. If you're waiting to win the lottery, it's not going to happen. Okay. It's down to you. 2%ers take ownership. They take responsibility for their own actions. So this is a book written by a friend of my dad's. She's called Val. And she's 85 years old. And she's lived a really, really interesting life. She spent years and years delivering babies in the pub. And Val and my dad go to something called a writers group. Okay? They don't do any writing at writers group, but they do drink lots of red wine. And Val's reached an age where she decided, I've lived an interesting life, and actually I want to write down some of the things that I've done. So she approached lots of different publishers to see if they were interested. And what do you think they said? They said no, because she doesn't have a social media following. Okay? She doesn't have enough people following on Twitter. But she wasn't put off. She decided she was going to write it anyway. She self-published it. But the point of writing the book wasn't just to write it down, it was to share some of her experiences with people around her. So she approached the local bookshop, big bookshop chain in the local high street, to ask if she could take some of her books in there and do a book signing. And they said, no. Val wasn't to be put off though. And I was there to witness her. One Saturday morning, in a wheelchair, she trundled through the doors of the local bookshop, past the 12-year-old on the till, and she set herself up with a pile of books and a biscuit tin full of change to share her book. And people came to look at what she'd written. Okay, she just went in there, and at one point she had a queue of 3 people waiting to speak to her. And it was wonderful to see. They were a little bit bemused why they were paying by changing a biscuit tin, not by a credit card. But it was great to see. And I just think Val is a great example who's taken responsibility. Okay? She's choosing the positive, but she knows it's down to you. She's the change that she wants to see. If you're waiting for somebody else to make the change, you're going to be waiting for a long, long time. But we don't change because it can feel a little bit risky. What does risk look like?
Or close your eyes and just fall down, okay? Don't worry.
Okay, then Lauren's going to catch you.
Close your eyes.
Okay, it's called the trust fall. Okay, trust fall. Ready, set, go.
We're going to fall flat on our face occasionally, and we do. It happens, but we can be prepared for that. True story. Big question, really big question. What do you want from life? This is a question I was faced with last summer. I was in the kitchen cooking my speciality, spaghetti bolognese. You know spaghetti bolognese? Yeah. Can't do anything else, but spaghetti bolognese is okay. Although Henry hates it, I won't tell you what he calls it, but it's not very nice. My daughter Martha was doing her homework on the kitchen table. Or actually, she wasn't doing her homework. She had about 2 screens open. And I was looking at her, I was trying not to say anything. I said, don't you think you should put your phone away and your laptop away? And that was it, a big argument. You're responsible for global warming, for end of the world. What do you know? You're old. Anyway, so it was a bit quiet. And then I had a text from my wife, Helen. It said that, what do you want from life? So I stopped for a minute. I chatted to my daughter, Martha. What should we put? Health, wealth, happiness, never have enough money, better get rid of the wealth thing. So we said family, cobbled something together, sent it back. Hope she's okay, hope she's okay. Martha went back to not doing her homework. I went back to my spaghetti bolognese. About 2 minutes later, got another text. What do you want from Lidl? dysfunction was rapidly resuming. But I like the story. I like the story because actually I think human beings are very much like smartphones. Okay, that we're capable of great things, but we're not perfect. And actually we shouldn't try and be perfect. Okay? Because I work with too many people that don't do things because they're afraid they won't get it perfectly right. But you can still be brilliant and the best version of you and achieve great things even if you're not perfect. And yes, you might fall flat on your face. But remember the line which had the knots and the tangles in. That's how change, that's how progress, that's how success works. And 2%ers have got what we call bounce back ability, which they've got the capacity to actually, things can go wrong or things can go not quite right, and actually they can pick themselves up again. And I stumbled across this not long ago. And it's a Japanese art form. It's called kintsugi. And what it means, this is like a Japanese ornate pot. Okay? And you'll notice that actually that pot has been broken, hasn't it? It's fallen into pieces. But actually, rather than being discarded and thrown away, that pot has been mended. But it's not just been mended in any old way. It's been mended and it's been fixed with a mixture of gold, paint and resin. Okay? Because the idea is, and I think this is a beautiful, beautiful, wonderful idea, that actually the pot is even more beautiful for the experiences it's gone through. And I kind of think we've all felt a little bit broken at times. We've all fallen flat on our face at times. Maybe some of us have felt shattered at times. But you know what? You have survived 100% of your worst days yet. And you're not just all the more stronger for it, you're all the more beautiful for it as well. I'm just saying. Bounce back ability. Oh, my word. You've got to celebrate your cracks and your imperfections. It's your life story. There's no one in the whole world who's 7 billion like you. And every day you become more like you. You need to celebrate that. And it does mean you have to stand out occasionally. Okay? You might have to stand out on one leg. Okay? And be a flamingo in a flock of pigeons. But that's a good thing. You can do that. Okay. Time is ticking. What else do 2%ers do? 2%ers set those. We call them hooks. Huge, unbelievably great goals. Okay? Not just targets, not just specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, smart targets, targets that are the same as everybody else, things that get them excited, things that get them out of bed in the morning. And if you don't like the word target, then I use the word purpose. Okay? Because actually happiness, it's an interesting thing. And lots of people pursue happiness in terms of pleasure, the things that you're doing right now and experiencing, in terms of chocolate maybe, in terms of a glass of wine. But actually sometimes that's just a superficial happiness. A happiness that is just used to distract us from doing the things we don't like doing and thinking about the things that we don't want to think about. And actually by having a goal, you give yourself a purpose, something to work towards, something to get excited about. And 2%ers do this, and they set themselves huge goals in their life, in work, and sometimes that match. And here's the thing about goals. If you break them down into small enough parts, you can work towards achieving your huge, massive, great goal, even if it is mind-blowing. Because if you break them down into small enough parts, into habits and next steps, you can achieve that. And you can achieve that. And do you know what? That has now changed you as a person. You don't have to get to the top of the gold pyramid before you start feeling better and more fulfilled because you're pursuing your passion. It starts there. Because actually you're the sort of person you want to be, and you're starting to do those things that get the best out of you. 2%ers, set goals. And actually personally for me, I've realised this comes down simply to two things. Things that you can start doing and things that you should stop doing. And actually I'm quite good at starting to do habits, things that get the best out of me to pursue my goal. What I'm not so good is that. And sometimes we have to stop doing some things that are getting in the way of us being the best version of ourselves. Okay? And sometimes actually one of the things I need to stop doing is actually the way I talk to myself. Now I'm not mad, and you're not mad, but we're human. And we all talk to ourselves. But actually, if I am honest, if you talk to your friends like you talk to yourselves, you probably wouldn't have that many friends. Just saying. Sometimes we have to learn to be a bit kinder, a little bit nicer to ourselves. What other things do 2%ers do? Well, they know that you cannot not have an impact on everybody around you, the people you meet. It's not so much the words you say, but just the energy you give off, your actions, your moves, your body language. Take a look at this.
Say hi, everyone.
That's so cute! You're missing it.
Takes a few minutes. I feel good every time I see it. It makes me feel good. The 2%ers have worked something out called the 4-minute rule. It only takes 4 minutes to set the tone of a conversation or an interaction. 4 minutes. Now that can be a good 4 minutes and the day will go better, or it can be a bad 4 minutes. Do you know what? I was quite often guilty of a bad 4 minutes. When I was teaching, I'd have children that came into the classroom in the morning. They'd be saying, hello, hello, hello. And actually what I would be saying is, come over here, this work's useless, you need to improve it. As soon as they came in, because I was more bothered about what needed to be done. And the rest of the day, of course, would be a nightmare. When I got home at the end of the day, I'd walk in through the door and I'd say to my wife, you never guess what sort of day I've had. I've had the worst day ever. I've had the nightmare of a day. When my children were younger at nursery, they'd be there with some junk modelling tap they made at nursery, or some Lego model. Say, Dad, have a look at this. What would I be doing? Get out of the way. I need to get to the fridge. I need a beer. I've had a monster of a day. And it took me a while to realise there was going to come a moment, there was going to come a time where my children didn't want to come and say, Dad, look what I've made, it's really, really special. But I would just go on, what a rubbish day I've had, a nightmare of a day, you won't believe it. My wife wasn't listening to me, she was just waiting for her turn. But actually things changed. When I went in and actually thought, do you know what, I'm going to park that bad day outside. Okay, and I'm going to be interested the minute I walk through the door. And I took some notice of the junk modelling tats, of the Lego model my children made. And actually, it took about 2 minutes, and my children were great. They were like really happy to see me. And then they went back, they got bored with me, and then they go back to whatever they were doing. Okay, and my beer was still there, but actually that monster of a day that I'd had didn't seem quite such a big monster. And making a conscious effort for your interaction changes massively the dynamics of the day. I'll give you another example. Bedtimes. My daughter Martha, we've got a bookshelf full of books. Okay? So why is it she always wanted the very same books to be read at bedtime? Always. So I'd be there. Loads of marking to do. I'm a busy man, you know. Rubbish day today, rubbish day tomorrow. But I want to be a decent dad, so I'm going to come and read you a story. So I'd sit there. I've been badgered, played by Mark. Dad, can you read me a story? Right, come on then, get in. So I'll be there. Why is it she always wanted this book about Maisie the duck? You know, Maisie the duck. Same book. Bored as anything with this damn book. Right, here we go. So I'll be reading, thinking, come on, got stuff to be doing. Get on. And I'll be watching. I'll be watching until Martha's eyes are going. And as soon as they started going, I'll be thinking, she's not going to mind if I just skip a page or two, is she? She's not going to mind. She's not going to notice. Do you think she noticed? Yes. Do you think she minded? Yes. Yes, she did. And of course, me being me is too pig-headed to admit that I'd skipped. No, I haven't. Of course I haven't. Why would I do that? And then bedtime becomes the start of the nightmare. Okay? And Martha goes to bed not happy but unhappy, and I kind of go off in a little bit of a strop, feeling a bit grumpy, and then I get a little bit and I go back to my marking and I'm not very happy. And actually it took me a while to think about 4 minutes, the 4-minute rule. How would the best dad in the world do this? So I'd sit there and think, right, okay, I'm going to read it, I'm going to fully read this book, I'm going to put on the funny voices, I'm going to be the characters in the book. And actually, the whole story thing, it took about half as long as it was taken previously, because I didn't skip any pages, there was no arguments. Martha went to bed happy, and actually I went off and carried on with my marking in a happy frame of mind. And a lot of this stuff is not just about work, it's not just about teaching, but for me personally, it's about how I can be the best dad I can be, and actually a half-decent husband, maybe. And it's about a ripple effect, just doing things to make little positive ripples that are catching. It's contagious. If you do things that are positive, all these little things drip feed. And it's been proven, right? This has been proven, that if you do something good for somebody, it doesn't just make them feel happier, but it stretches to 3 degrees of that person. So if Henry makes me a cup of tea in the morning, which he very rarely does, I say, oh, thanks, Henry. And actually my happiness, I am 16% happier on average just for that. But not only that, when I go and catch a bus, because I've had my cup of tea and I'm feeling a bit better, a bit more positive, I might actually say hello to the bus driver. Not just trying to look at him and grunt, I might say hello. The bus driver will then feel 10% happy. But not only that, every passenger that then gets on the bus after me, the bus driver might actually smile at them. And they feel 6% happier. So every positive thing that you do has a knock-on effect, a ripple effect, like throwing pebbles into a pond. And if you just think if everybody here was throwing their own positive pebble in the pond, just imagine all those ripples would be overlapping. And I just want you to know that actually we started off talking about the effect that you make in the classroom. And I've ummed and ahed whether to show you this video, so I'm just going to explain. So in this video there's a famous footballer. Okay, a famous footballer from England. And you don't need to know who he is, but actually they've arranged for him to meet a teacher that he once knew. Okay? And I just want you to know and see the effect that you have on the people that you're dealing with every day.
Ian's still the highest scoring striker ever to play for Arsenal, and he owes a lot to the man who first taught him to kick a ball, his old school teacher, Sid Picton.
As I haven't seen him for, 23, 24 years, so he would now be we could be 6 feet under or something. I don't actually think you probably won't recognise me because you won't believe it's me. Hello, Ian. Long time no see. It's a big one. You're alive. All right. How you doing? I can't believe this. Someone's dead. As you see, I'm very passionate, and I'm so glad you've done so well with yourself.
He was so supportive all the time. He kind of like had me as he was kind of like a special guy.
Well, what was that?
I can't believe it. I can't believe it. You know, now I realise how important he was in my life. The first main imposing figure, male figure in my life who was trying to guide me on the right road.
How far are we going back now? 40 years, 30 years, anybody?
32 years.
Yeah.
It's not what you do, but who you are that you'll be remembered for. That's the difference you make. And I can remember the names of every single child that was in my nursery class, every single child. I remember from secondary school, and actually that was the reason why I became a teacher, because of the relationships that I formed with people I just loved to be with, and I worshipped every single day. 2%ers do stuff. They do stuff that makes a difference. And actually, they're just small things. And they've figured out, actually, by doing things, it doesn't make other people feel happier. It makes you feel happier. Now, I figured this out a while ago when a car pulled over to ask me directions to someone. It doesn't happen very often now because people have phones with maps on, don't they? But it happened, and this guy came over, pulled over in the car, and he wanted to know directions to somewhere. And I was able to tell him. I knew where the place was. And I felt so good about it. Because it's happened before, and I've had not a clue, and I thought, damn it, wish I'd have known that. And actually I felt really, really good. And then the penny dropped. You know what, I shouldn't be waiting for somebody else to kind of ask me directions or to do something to feel good. It does feel good to throw a positivity pebble in the water and create a ripple effect. But I think we know this deep down, and I think lots of people do. But remember, people will judge you by your actions, not your intentions. You may have a heart of gold, but so does a hard-boiled egg. So don't just think about it. And actually, as teachers, I don't think it's your job to inspire children. I don't think it's your job. I think it is your role to be inspired. Because actually, if you can be the best, most brilliant version of you, the most energized version of you, then something magical happens. And it rubs off on other people, and it's called emotional contagion. And literally, your positivity, your happiness is catching. That's how it works. Some statistics for you. It's been proven that the average hug lasts for just under 3 seconds. Okay? Research shows that to convey the love and affection, you have to hold on for 7 seconds. Okay? Think about children, that's what they do, isn't it? They grab you, they hold on, and they don't let go. So that's some homework for you later on tonight. Don't count aloud at the same time. It takes the edge off. Tell me what you can see. I'll give you a clue. There's an eye. Oh, someone said it. There's another eye. There's an ear. Yes! Well done, you. There's another ear. There's nose. You seen that? Yeah. The cow's, top of the cow's head, just there. Ear. Let's try another one. I think this one you're going to get more quickly, experience tells me.
Baby.
Oh, quick flash. Took me ages to get this one. So can you see the hands up if you can see the baby? Oh, hands up if you can't, be honest. Okay, so there's the top of the head. There's the nose. There's the mouth. Arm. Okay.
Because she's mother.
And actually, it's obvious, you can see it when it's pointed out, can't you? And actually a lot of the things that I've been sharing with you during this session are a little bit like this. They are obvious when they are pointed out. They're what we call common sense, but they're not always common practice. And maybe they should be. Because that's how we all start off. That's how we start off. That's how we end up. That's how we end up. Maybe we shouldn't be spending the next 60, 70 years trying to figure out what we've lost. Maybe we should actually be doing something about it sooner rather than later. 4 big questions I ask myself on a daily basis, religiously. 4 big questions to help me try and focus on the positive. Number 1, did I try my best to be happy? Did I try my best to find meaning? Did I try my best to build positive relationships? Number 4, did I try my best to be fully engaged? Well, actually, it doesn't always work. But actually, I find that if I am trying, then that's the most important thing. Making a conscious effort to be the better me helps me and helps the person around me, the people around me. And actually, can I tell you one other thing? One simple action that I do that helps make all those things happen. One simple action is I turn my phone off throughout the day from time to time. Not all day, but I found if I turn my phone off, if I put it away, if it's actually off, I know that there's no chance of a really, really important or exciting email or notification to pop up. And then actually, I speak to the people in front of me without having just one ear on what might be popping up on my phone. And then actually that helps my positive relationship, because when I'm talking with my family and my children, they get everything of me. They don't just get part of me. And actually, then it helps me to find meaning around you, because when I'm walking my dog in a beautiful, beautiful forest, which is near me, I'm looking around at the forest and appreciating life around me. Because it's actually the small things that are the big things, not just walking through, looking at a screen, which I could look at anywhere. And all those things together kind of helps me feel happy, be the best version of me. So I'm hoping that today in the session, and you've been really kind and welcoming, I'm hoping it's been an opportunity for us to do that. Because sometimes I think we all need to step outside and get some air and just remind ourselves of actually who you are and who you want to be. And I think you deserve to be the best version of you. And actually I think life is a little bit like a song, or maybe even a dance. And I'll tell you why, because I think the aim of a song or a dance is not to get to the end of that song or dance as quickly as possible, but it's about enjoying and appreciating it every step along the way. And actually I think dancing is a little bit like life. And being positive is a little bit like being the first person on the dance floor. People don't like to be typically the first person on the dance floor, but once one person is there, people are there quickly to follow. And I urge you to think about being the best version of you, sooner rather than later. be with you today. I want to leave you with 3 heartfelt words that you need to remember. You are... No.